It's Wednesday, June 25th. Let's level up. Markets were able to extend gains today, but the internals were starting to falter a little bit. You see stocks like Apple lagging a little bit. You also saw some profit taking in the names like CRWV, and I call the son of CRWV, Circle. Probably some end of month profit taking, probably some end of quarter lock-in. I wouldn't make too much of it just yet, but on the positive side, the VIX was able to get below and stay below 17.02. Today's high of day is 17.51, so anything over that I think could get incrementally a little bit more bearish. Anything below there does remain in the bulls camp. As far as futures go, we were able to repair yesterday's rich close at 61.33 in the ES. The Qs didn't quite get there, but that would be 22,341. As far as levels to watch here, I think bulls are alright as long as they're over 61.4375. Below there does start getting incrementally more liquidation break prone. Qs are actually a lot stronger, but they need to hold up here, I'd say 22,388.5. And then if they were to repair yesterday's rich close, that would take you down to that 22,341. Generally, as long as those VWAPs hold, though, it's still okay, given where we are up at the highs, just chillaxing up here. As far as SPY goes, generally, as long as the bulls can hold 605, I think it's okay. 605.06 to 605.54 is the real technical level, but I'm just going to say 605 because that's the clean strike. Anything above there, I still think can see the 610s and the 613.23 old all-time high. Below the 605s could see a liquidation break, probably to fill in the gap from 2 sessions ago down to 600. Maybe they try to pin it there into the end of the week if we get a weaker than expected GDP print or maybe a hotter than expected CPI. Those, by the way, are going to be big data points. Look for the GDP Thursday, look for the CPI on Friday. As far as Qs go, new all-time high today. They did it very gingerly and with a bit of a dragonfly doji. I think as long as the bulls are over 539.38, which was today's low, it's okay. But generally here, bulls will need to hold 536.88 to 540.81, and anything over 540.81 in particular keeps new all-time highs in play. We've done some fib projections. At 2.618 on the upside is 573.71, so that would be a big upside target if the bulls can get the rally to extend. Bit of dueling banjos here. Even though Apple has remained sluggish, we are seeing NVDA at all-time highs. I had told you I thought we'd get up to the 152s, so as long as bulls can hold that 152.89, it's still fine. If we do keep going, the channel high, assuming we did it tomorrow, could be 161.59. I'd be a trimmer up here, though, and have a bit of a tight stop. Anything back below the 152s, there is the potential for a liquidation break, maybe even to retest the after-hours or post-earnings breakout at 143s, but generally it's still looks pretty good here. SMCI today was acting very well. I used the opportunity today to book some short puts that I have on. 48.13 is the anchor VWAP, so that would be the next big upside target and probably another area to trim into. Don't really let it get below 46s on you, though. The aforementioned Apple is sort of trading between both the 10 MA on the low end of the range at 198.94 and the 50 MA on the upper end at 202.67. So basically, bulls need to clear and hold over the 50 MA, and the bears need to break it below the 10 MA and hold. I think incrementally, if you want to use the 20 MA at 200.36, that's fine too. If you want to do something a little longer dated, maybe playing for the rally in September for the iPhone launch, do some type of a call spread that targets that 225 upside area, 220 to 225 upside area. If you want to be long 205 or 210, short 220, short 225, I'm fine with that. You could even start selling incrementally weekly options against it to bring down your cost, or into IV pops, use that opportunity to sell some out of the money puts or out of the money put spreads to help fund those call spreads. If you're going to start that, I would do it super small because there is the potential for a break on the 7/31 earnings. Of course, we have all that tariff news and the new Chinese phones that have been doing well, and by the way, they have caught up quite a bit. I think that dip, though, has historically been the opportunity to buy the dip for Apple. A lot of people message me about this every day, about playing it long or short, and I tell them I think it's just going to frustrate and be choppy. Nice bounce in Google, 50-day hold. It is into some resistance here, anywhere between 171.96, 200 MA, and the 173.79, 50% fib. Remember, we got out when we got the fill on 610 right at the highs. I said I thought there'd be an opportunity to reload closer to the 165s. That has worked so far. I would raise stops, though. Don't let it get below the 100 MA on you at 167.99. Amazon's been a little laggy, too, lately. Bit of a weird candle today. It was strong at one point, then closed fairly weak. 20 MA there is a key pass don't pass line in my view at 210.80. I think it's going to just chop around here, but usually prime day is strong, and that's of course July 8th through 12th. CRWV, bears need to keep it below the 10 MA, 163.57. The next support will probably come in somewhere at the 20 MA at 149.73, and then after that it's 142.50. For me, I would be an interested right or right out dip buyer if we got down somewhere in the 130s to 125s. I think that zone would be a stronger support point. If you just sold it up here, probably not worth rebuying, but I don't necessarily know that I'd have to short it here given the fact that these don't have their lockups until later on in the year. Circle, pretty decent pullback. Anchor VWAP there is 185.13. That could be a right or right out buy the dip. The 10 MA is just below there at 178.21. We filled in the gap from 618. I told you in the prior video, in the midweek video, that I thought we had a potential for a secure high here. We are now in an auction on the downside, so bulls would have to take out a prior day's high. If you're short, I wouldn't let it get above 213.14 on you now. That was the 2 times range. The intraday VWAP was 208.42, so dealer's choice with that one. Bitcoin continues to rally off of our 50 MA and channel low targets. Bit of a dubstep here in the overnight. If you want to raise your stop to 107.965, makes sense to me. I think there's resistance between 108,960 and 110,150. Channel high comes in right at 109,625 if it were due tomorrow. Gold bouncing nicely off the channel low in 50 MA, so that's a good raise stop at 305.90. I think you can set some sells into 308.88 20 MA and 310.54 10 MA. TLT catching a little bit of love here. Dip was bought. Could use today's low as a raised stop at 86.80. I realize that that's probably a lot for some, so if you want to use candle body low at 87.11, I'm good with that. The 100 MA at 88.30 up to 88.69, which is the 50% fib, would be the next big upside targets. Remember, we had talked about doing some call spreads targeting 90 to 92 on the upside if you're longer dated, but I would trim a little bit of gains if we do get that run. Dollar had a pretty nasty breakdown today, but it did have a bottoming tail hammer. If you have a higher low tomorrow and you take out 97.605, I think there could be a check back to 97.921. But on the downside, there is the potential, believe it or not, to get all the way down to the 94s. So don't take for granted that that could happen, particularly if we start getting some weaker than expected inflation data. Generally speaking, markets have run quite a bit. We've discussed this in past videos. I like raising stops. I like taking profits, particularly into up opens. I would use dips to still buy as long as they hold said support levels. I think the bulls are still in charge here. Today was a little bit of consolidation. I think that there could be some end of week, end of month, and end of quarter lock-in here. So if you're in names that are up big, I would use those pops to trim some gains, maybe sell some out of the money calls to take in some of that extra premium. Try not to get too greedy. The market is near all-time highs, and if you're chasing things that are up a lot, you have to have either smaller size or tighter stops. Like and follow for more.